Boys just want to have fun, and so do gamers too, and that's what they're getting with Astrobot, a new Sony PlayStation exclusive that has captured the imagination of gamers that like the old school platformers that we used to get from yesteryear. And I think that's the thing people love about Astrobot, but that is a thing that a lot of gaming journalists hate about it, that gamers are actually having fun playing games again. And I think this shouldn't be a shocker to anyone that understands gaming journalists in the modern day era, where it's not about having fun with games anymore. It's about sending a message to the gamers themselves. And it's not shocking that IGN and Kotaku are ganging up at the same time against this game, claiming it's a soulless advertisement campaign for video games that is just focused on fun for the game player. And they think this is a negative thing, but a lot of gamers online are saying, yes, this is what we want. We want a game that's solely about the fun, solely about the things that we enjoyed about gaming. And that's what Astrobot is doing for a lot of gamers. And I think this is a thing we want to see in gaming a lot more, where things are just focused on the fun, colors, the imagination of the artists themselves, pushing the boundaries of what we can think in our mind, and actually having enjoyable gameplay mechanics. But of course, IGN came out with an article attacking the gamers for liking a fun game for once. And this is the thing that we see consistently in the video gaming industry, where a fun game comes out and IGN, Kotaku have to come together and attack that game, especially Astrobot in this situation, because Astrobot is following the great and mighty failure of another Sony exclusive that had the backing of all journalists across the gaming sphere. We're talking about Concord. Concord is one of the biggest flops of this generation, costing Sony over $400 million in the overall production and sale of this game. And I think a lot of people would see this as a massive failure and a need to redirect towards making games and products that are more in line with the gamer and player base. And I think that's what a lot of gaming journalists are scared about, where Sony's going to take this directive and think, okay, if we make a fun game for gamers, maybe we'll make money this time. And obviously that scares the gaming journalists, because the gaming journalists are there to send a message to gamers themselves. They want to change the mind of gamers to be in line with their own political ideology. And of course, that is the Western gaming sphere as we know it today, where it's about political ground and how you influence that political landscape within your sphere of influence. And now we have consultancies, influencers, and devs that have this political ideology that have invaded this space, not to make fun games, but to change the mind of gamers themselves. And that's why you have consultancy firms like Sweet Baby Inc. coming in and taking control of the industry and influencing in such a way where gaming companies have to pay them millions of dollars for consultancy fees to guide their game into the gutter. And obviously that is the result that we've been seeing from Sweet Baby Inc. properties. You can just look at all the titles that have come out of their banner that have been complete failures. You can go down to Kill the Justice League, down to Dustborn, over to Concord and to Flintlock, which were massive failures that brought in no audience that supported these games. And the numbers on Steam supported that, with abysmal numbers floating around under 1,000 people playing this game, or bottoming out around 50 to 10 people playing their games. And this is the result of not understanding the audience and not caring about your audience, and hiring people that don't care about video games to produce games for a gaming audience. And this is the result of Concord being a massive failure. And it's the opposite of what we're seeing with Astrobot, which was developed by a team in Japan Studios, that was threatened to be shut down by Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Herman Holtz, who hates Japanese studios. You can just see this with some of the comments he mentioned, and how he has more focus on the Western game development sphere. And of course, his crown jewel was Concord, the massive failure that is now heaping on over $400 million in costs and losses to Sony. And this is just showing the overall creative directive that we're seeing in the video gaming industry. But it is the ideology that is stamped within Concord that is making it a darling for the gaming journalists. And that's why they're coming out and attacking this small studio and this big game, Astrobot, which is eclipsing what we're seeing with Concord, because this game is actually making money for Sony. And you can see it with the rave reviews, everyone talking about it, loving the game, and absolutely enjoying this new form of entertainment that we're getting from a studio that is focused on making fun games. Of course, when you look at the attacks from Kotaku and IGN, it just comes down to the lack of message that they can't find in Astrobot. And I'm thinking, why are you looking for a message in Astrobot? It's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be enjoyable, it's supposed to be exploring the world of Astrobot and all the characters from the Sony universe. That's the main goal of it. And the fact that they made a fun game out of something that was just supposed to be a showcase of Sony products, that is an amazing feat from a very capable studio that was threatened to be shut down by the CEO who hates Japanese studios, which is not making sense when all the heavy hitters and sellers for Sony have been Asian or Japanese studio focused games. I think that's the situation we're seeing blow up within the video gaming industry right now, with all the journalists coming out to attack Astro Boy, saying this is the real problem with Sony, is depending on these games that are not there with a message, that are soulless and empty. And I think you can see this throughout the gaming industry, where so many people from IGN, The Gamer, are coming together to attack this game. And this is just hinting that this is a coordinated attack, because a lot of these people have associations with Sweet Baby Inc. and all these consultancy firms, and are used to attack games that are not in line with their ideology. We saw this happen with Black Myth Wukong, where they threatened Black Myth Wukong with a whole host of attacks from gaming journalists if they didn't pay the $7 million consultancy fees and inject their political ideology within the game itself. Of course, Black Myth Wukong rejected this, according to rumors, and Sweet Baby Inc. went on with the attacks from the gaming journalists from IGN, Kotaku to The Gamer, where they came out attacking this game consistently for several months. And that is just a situation in the gaming industry, where the gaming journalists are an arm for the consultancy firms and political activists, and that's why the game devs bend the knee to these consultancy firms. And this is the result that we're seeing play out, where the consultancy firms and the gaming journalists are seeing their position threatened by fun games being produced within the Japanese studios. And that's what's bearing fruit from all the attacks that are coming out directed at Astrobot. You can see this from Carolyn Pett, who says, for the most part, nothing actively, inquisitively engaged with the history of video games as a medium. It's a parade float game, and that's the essence of all the criticism, where it's just not doing anything beyond just being a fun game for gamers to play. You can see this continue on, where people are saying it has no message to actually lend itself to the gaming world and history. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the message is there. Have fun playing games. Here's a new fun character to play as, and let's see what we can do with this character in the future. That is essentially what gaming is. And I think if you're not having fun with the game should just disappear. And that's what we saw with Concord. You had all the messages, but you didn't have the fun, so gamers are not there. And I think Astrobot achieve the first thing you're supposed to do in gaming: make a fun game for players to actually stick around, and maybe they'll hear some message if it's actually a fun message. And I think that's the result that we're seeing with games succeeding, like Black Myth Wukong, like Stellar Blade, like anything else from Eastern developers that are focusing on making the game players have an enjoyable experience. Here's more people from the gaming journalist sphere attacking this game, saying this game is coddling gamers, that's not appreciating the in-depth messages from other video games that have come out this past year. And probably they're thinking like Concord or some other failures like Dustborn, like Flintlock, that have the Sweet Baby Inc. support. And I think this is the messaging that we're seeing with this coordinated attack against Astrobot, which is funny because everyone was praising Astrobot, but I think they realized, at least the people, the gaming journalists themselves, is that this is affecting Sony. Sony is thinking, okay, this is the type of game we need to produce. Forget all that nonsensical progressive ideology with Concord and every one of those other exclusives that we're putting out. No, we're going to just focus on making games simple and fun, indirect and direct for the gamers themselves. And that's why we're seeing a hit piece trying to tear down this game that they weren't even prepared for its success. But I think any game that's fun is going to be successful now. And this is kind of the campaign we're seeing grow within the industry, where it's an industry attacking fun. And that is a crazy thing to hear about video games, where you have people that want to strip the fun from video games when that is just the main point of gaming. But of course, these people are going to go on attacking this game, and I think the game players are going to continue on making these games massive successes. You can see that with Black Myth Wukong, where we're going to have more studios trying to do the same thing Black Myth Wukong did, more than what Concord is doing specifically. We're gonna have more studios doing what the First Descendant is doing, which is making pretty attractive characters with fun gameplay, and I think that is a result that we're gonna see in the near future. But that's just my perspective. What do you think about the game journalists hating fun in games? I think it's weird, it's crazy, but this is the modern state of gaming where we have people that want to destroy fun in games. But that's just my thoughts on the situation. I'd like to hear your comments about what's happening in the gaming industry. But like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.